weekend will be my good friend
What
Ray
up?
C, a former Pokemon professional,
Yes.
and it's actually going to be my first time here casting for Pokemon. Could not be more excited, and we've got a fantastic first match to get underway for round number 1. It's going to be Sam Chen taking on Eric Eldredge. And Ray, Sam is actually a good friend of yours.
Yeah, Sam has been one of my best friends for a long time. And he is right now currently on a hot streak, I would say.
Yeah.
He just top-8'd Worlds. He just got second at Regional Championships.
Mm-hmm.
This man is on fire right now.
Yeah, he is definitely coming into this one hot. Seemed a little bit wishy-washy on exactly what deck he was going to be playing, but he did end up settling on Gardevoir. And
Yes.
then we've got Eric Eldredge, who's going to be playing Drampa Garbodor.
Yeah, so this matchup is pretty attrition-based. It's going to come down to whether or not they're able to do fancy things, like if Sam is able to field blower tools off of the Garbodor to be able to use his abilities again, like Secret Spring, to try to get easy one-hit knockouts on, say, a Drampa that wants to berserk his Gardevoirs. And Eric, although they have the names mixed up right now, he's going to try to take one-hit knockouts on Gardevoir if it takes damage through Potown, which he plays 4 of specifically for this matchup.
Yeah, Potown is excellent to put a little bit of damage on those Pokemon that then need to evolve up, and it gives Drampa and Garbodor that boost that they need to be able to knock out Pokemon like Gardevoir, which have absurdly high health totals.
230.
Exactly. Otherwise, a Drampa with an active Berserk plus a Choice Band wouldn't quite get there. But if you can put those Potown damage counters on it when it's evolving from Routes to Kirlia or Kirlia to Gardevoir, then you're going to be able to get that one-hit knockout. And it looks like we've got Sam setting up with a Remoraid, of course, playing Octillery in the deck. Abyssal Hand, drawing your hand up to 5 is going to be the major draw engine for this deck.
Especially late game when he gets end down to low cards. But Eric, he's playing the Garbotoxin Garbodor, which is going to shut off all abilities. So late game, if Sam is ahead, Eric's going to be looking to end him to a low number of cards while having Garbotoxin active. And that's going to stop Sam from being able to use Abyssal Hand, which is Octillery's ability, to drop to 5. So if Sam goes too far ahead in the game, there's a chance that he just gets end into a bad hand late game and then gets his Gardevoir knocked out and just can't set up anything behind it.
Yeah, it's very difficult once you get that Garbotoxin Garbodor online, and if you restrict Sam's draw power, then Lele doesn't get a supporter. Now that Versus Seeker is out of the format, you have a lot more difficult of a time picking supporters up. So really, you're looking at Abyssal Hand and Tapu Lele to get those into your hand and refill your hand. And if you don't have access to those abilities, then you could definitely be in trouble. And that's kind of unfortunate for Sam, because a lot of what his deck revolves around is evolving very quickly to get the Stage 2 Gardevoir up there as fast as he possibly can, get as much energy on it, and start getting those knockouts. But if he gets ahead and goes by his normal game plan, he could be running into some trouble, especially since you need to play so many item cards to get the Gardevoirs up and running. Lots of Ultra Balls. You need Field Blowers to knock that Garbotoxin ability out of contention. You need Float Stones to be able to move things around. Choice Bands, of course, to get the knockouts on the Drampa. It starts to really add up.
Yeah, for sure. Luckily for Sam, though, he is going first, which is a big deal in this matchup. If you're going first, that means you're going to be able to evolve first. You're going to be able to use your abilities before maybe Garbotoxin comes down. Like we see here, Sam actually had a really good first turn. He's able to bridge it, get 3 basics onto the bench, and attach an energy. So his setup is looking pretty clean right now. And even we see he has the Octillery in his hand for next turn. He can just set everything up. He has Float Stones in his deck, so he's going to be able to retreat pretty easily. And Eric, he doesn't have much going on for him on turn 1 in terms of abusing the ability to attack first. That's not really a thing in Drampa Garb. All you can really do is Righteous Edge for 20, which might be relevant if he could pull up the rolls to knock off that DCE, but that's most likely not going to be the case here. You're probably just going to Tapu Lele for a Bridget, just get set up, or you could find another supporter. Either way, I highly doubt he's going to be Guzmaing up the rolls to knock off that DCE.
Yeah, that would
very unlikely.
That would require quite a starting hand. You would need your own Drampa, your own first energy, and then the Guzma as well, which would mean that you're not drawing as much as you would perhaps like to on your first turn. Usually you want to get those draw supporters out while you can and keep that card draw flowing.
Exactly. Here it looks like Eric is just looking through his deck, taking his time, and seeing what's prized. That's what a lot of good players do on the first turn. The first turn of the game, you're actually allowed to take more time searching through your deck than any other turn because you have to see what's prized. And like I said before, he's most likely going to go for the Bridget, which he does pull here with the Tapu Lele. So they actually have mirroring starts. They both have very strong starts here. They're both just going to get 3 basics. Or he could get a GX Pokemon instead. I doubt that's going to happen. He's most likely just going to pull Tapu Koko, maybe another Trubbish, something along the lines of that.
And I do want to note, Sam is playing 1 copy of Parallel City, while Eric has 4 copies of Po Town. So we're assuming that there will 90% of the time be a Po Town active in this game. But Sam does have the ability to drop down Parallel City on the turn, potentially, that he wants to evolve his routes,
right. So
whether through Rare Candy or just into Curlia. Exactly. So he can prevent a little bit of that damage, but only for the turn that he's able to get out Parallel City if Eric then has an additional copy of Po Town to play down on his next turn.
Yeah. Sam is never winning the Stadium War here, but like you said, the Stadium's just going to be a useful tool to avoid taking damage at some point in the game, hopefully earlier rather than later.
Yeah.
But there's also a chance that you hit the Po Town out and then Eric can't actually find a second one. That's pretty rare since he's playing 4. But there's a chance at some point in the game he ends up discarding his stadiums and such. And
all right, so big first move. Eric is going to go ahead and big wheel GX very early on, shuffle hand into the deck, and then draw 10. We saw him flip his GX counter over. And that's one of the fantastic ways that Drampa can help you get past your opponent. You draw so much in the early game. Yes, you risk your opponent ending you early and getting rid of that card value, your card advantage, but Drampa just has so much utility in this way. He's a big attacker, and he's got big draw potential as well.
Yeah, and it actually looks like Sam does not have the N, but he has the Parallel City to counter the Po Town. But that looks like a Sycamore to me. That's most likely going to be his supporter for the turn. He has the Candy Gardevoir,
he does,
which is very nice, and he had the Parallel City to avoid taking the damage.
He's got to find the Float Stone to get that Octillery out of there.
He definitely needs the Float Stone. He really wanted to see an N here as opposed to Sycamore, but, you know, getting that Candy Gardevoir is still pretty nice. Ooh, actually, he opts to Abyssal Hand first.
If he finds this N, it's going to be big. Doesn't get it. Instead, picks up a couple energies.
Yeah, he was looking for that N here specifically because he knows that Abyssal Handing to draw cards that you're most likely just going to discard immediately after, that's not good for you. There's a chance he just plays Guzma here and takes out the Trubbish, but then you're setting yourself behind on the GX war. You're taking damage first. Maybe that's what he wants to do, is try to knock out both Trubbishes and stop his opponent from being able to develop a Garbodor with Garbotoxin onto the board, and then that allows him to use his Secret Spring ability.
Yep, he's going to do exactly that. Knock out the Trubbish with the Float Stone, get that tool out of the way, and just take that first prize. Try to get back a little bit of that card quality because he's struggling a little bit right now. He has Abyssal Hand active. He has a Sycamore in hand, but Eric played Big Wheel last turn and was able to get his own hand up to 10 cards. So he's got a lot more to work with right now than Sam does. Sam, he's looking for Float Stone. He's looking for N. Still a lot of resources that he doesn't have access to.
Yeah, and we see Sam just take out a knockout here with Infinity Force. That's going to do 90 damage because there was 3 energies on the Gardevoir. DCE counts as 2 energies for Infinity Force. And let's look at the list here. Does Eric, how many Trubbishes does he play? He plays 4 Trubbish. So going with the strategy of trying to knock out all the Trubbish right after Eric Giant Wheeled or Big Wheeled for 10 cards, it's a little bit sketchy because you know he's most likely going to have access to more Trubbish to bench. Maybe taking out the Float Stone was a big deal just because they're a finite resource, but he's still playing 4 of them, so it's still going to be pretty easy to access. Sam only has 3 Guzmas. It's going to, without Versa Seeker in the format, it seems like it's very difficult to execute that take out the basic plan.
Yeah. It's Eric is running 4 copies of Float Stone, 4 copies of Choice Band. He has a copy of Rescue Stretcher as well, so if he needs it, he can get back one of the dead Trubbishes, but he's running a 4. Yeah, he's running a 4-2-2 line of 4 Trubbish, 2 of the Garbotoxin Garb, and 2 Trashlanch Garb.
Realistically, knocking out that Trubbish with the Float Stone might just prevent Garbotoxin for one turn.
But that could be enough.
But that, right, exactly. And sometimes you just have to play the hand that you're dealt in Pokemon. If he discarded his whole hand with Juniper, what are you looking for? Sycamore.
You're living in the past, Ray.
I am. Hey, they do the same thing, all right?
But one is legal.
That's true. Sam would be disqualified. He was playing Juniper, but
he would never.
Either way.
Yeah.
Sam, he just
has to go for it.
Well, even if he's not executing that strategy, he knows in this matchup you're most likely going to have to take 2 1 prizes. So he's going to have to knock out 2 non-GX Pokemon here.
Yeah, exactly. Because Eric is only running 2 copies of Drampa.
Right.
So if you get 2 non-GXs and then the 2 Drampas, you're looking pretty good. But it is possible that he only gets the 1 Drampa knockout, in which case he could get the Lele knockout for the second 2 prizes.
Exactly. So he's most likely going to have to take a non-GX knockout at some point, and taking it early on, avoiding discarding necessary resources is fine. And on top of that, you didn't miss an attachment. You didn't miss any type of setup by
He hasn't missed a supporter yet.
Yeah.
He's still made good use of his early turns.
Exactly. And it looks like Eric is going to attach the DCE to the Tapu Koko, and he might just go for a flying flip here. Eric plays cards like Espeon EX, which has the Devolution attack, Miraculous Shine, which will devolve all of Sam's Pokemon. So if he's able to spread multiple times with Tapu Koko, on top of stacking Potown damage that Sam will have to take now once another Potown comes in play because he doesn't play another Stadium to knock it out, that Devolution will be a huge factor in this game later on.
Yep, that could hit potentially multiple knockouts on the EVs or the Ralts. Sam is playing a 2-2 line of EV and Sylveon GX, so he's going to be looking for potentially Plea GX, but not a lot to hit with Plea in this matchup. It's really not as effective here as it would be against Golisopod or Greninja.
Right, exactly. Actually, the Octillery, the Remoraid, is only 40 HP as well.
Yes.
So
very flimsy.
There's a lot of stuff that you can hit here if you spread with Tapu Koko and start to set up that late game Espeon EX to try to take a few prizes to end the game.
Sam's going to Sycamore for 7, picks up the Sylveon, a couple more DCEs, and he does hit the Float Stone if he needs to retreat that Gardevoir for any reason.
Yeah.
And he would like to start setting up a second one right now, I think.
For sure. Sam's Gardevoir has 50 damage counters on it because the Choice Band was attached to the Tapu Koko, which was very important because now Drampa can hit for 150 plus a Choice Band 180, which we see the Choice Band is already on it.
Yep, that would be the knockout.
Eric, very smart here, setting up his damage to perfectly knock out the Gardevoir GX. He definitely knows what he's doing here. And on top of that, it's forcing Sam to take another 1 prize. So Eric can set up 1 Trashalanche Garbodor and then force Sam to take odd number of prizes again, which is one of the strategies in Pokemon since EXs have been introduced to the game and GXs as well. You take 2 prizes when they get knocked out, so you try to give your opponent an odd number of prizes so they have to knock out GX when they have 1 prize left, as opposed to having 2 prizes left.
Sam goes back up to 5, finds a couple of Ultra Balls and a Choice Band, so his Gardevoir can do quite a bit of damage, but no way to target that Drampa. It doesn't look like Eric is ready to bring it out just yet, but he brings out the Trubbish that does have the Float Stone on it, so if he wants, he can retreat out to the Drampa this turn and potentially find that knockout.
And there's a field blower. Sam was forced to preemptively attach the Choice Band because he played Sycamore.
And you know what actually Eric is suffering from right now is Berserk only activates when you have damage counters on a benched Pokemon. He does not have damage counters, so he doesn't have the active Berserk attack. That's what is really, really suffering.
That's true. He can't attach to the Drampa and also damage his Pokemon.
Exactly.
Unless he gets a Potown and evolves to Garbodor, because then his own Garbodor takes damage.
Yep. He's got the Rainbow Energy. Looks like he wants to attach that to the Drampa to get the 3 energies for Berserk. But if he attaches the Rainbow to another Pokemon, then he has Berserk active. So he's kind of in It's kind of a weird spot right now. He has the ability to damage the bench, but then he can't actually attack with Berserk this turn because he put the DCE on the Flying Flip Coco last turn.
He's going to really need to find exactly Potown plus Garbodor. Otherwise, there's a chance he just gets completely blown out of the game by Guzma. If he does not find Garbodor plus Potown here, and Sam draws into a Guzma off of this 4-card N, that is bad news.
If Sam gets the knockout on this Drampa before Eric gets the knockout on the Guardy with the Drampa, Sam's looking really, really good.
He is so far ahead. And he still has the ability to Octillery if Eric doesn't find the Garbotoxin.
And he picks up the Rare Candy and the Ultra Ball to find another Guardy next turn if he wants it.
Which also decreases his hand size to 0, most likely.
So he can Abyssal Hand for 5.
If the Garbotoxin doesn't come down here.
Yep.
And then if he can do that, he's probably has a decent chance of finding Guzma, honestly.
I would think so. He's playing 3 of them?
Yeah.
3 Guzma. He's used 1. 1 could potentially be prized.
There it is. There's the Potown plus Evolve. That's going to do 3 damage to the Garbodor, which is exactly what he wanted because obviously Berserk, he needs the damage on the bench.
Yep, so now he can retreat that Trashlanch Garb, bring in the Drampa. Drampa's going to be doing 180 with the Choice Band and the active Berserk, and that is enough to knock out this Gardevoir, get Eric 2 prizes, and now Sam needs to find a way to get this Drampa off the board.
Yeah, he also does not have access to his Secret Spring ability because of... Oh, wait, that's not even a Garb.
That's Trashlanch Garb. It's not Garbodor. Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yep.
Okay. That is not good for Eric anymore.
Well, it's a secondary big attacker if the Drampa gets knocked out. We've seen Sam use...
Drampa's getting knocked out here 100% if Sam finds a
If
Fairy
he can
Energies.
do it.
Yeah. But he has the Ultra Ball, and he has the ability to Abyssal Hand, which means he can draw into more supporters.
So he's got the Ultra Ball, he's got the Rare Candy, he's got the routes in play.
Of cards
he's got a DCE, but he needs that Fairy Energy.
So here, he's most likely going to Ultra Ball, not use the DCE, because he wants to attach the DCE. He can actually just attach it to the active and evolve to Gardevoir, which will then...
Well, for Infinite Force, you need the Fairy Energy. So does
but he has a Secret Spring. He has the ability available.
Okay, so if he finds the Fairy Energy, he can have the Fairy Energy and the DCE on the active Gardevoir.
Because he can Secret Spring it on, as opposed to normally attaching it. So he still has the ability to do it.
But he's still limited to the single Secret Spring a turn because he hasn't been able to set up multiple Gardevoir.
Correct, but he only needs one.
The one.
He only needs the one here.
And then he would have 5 energy on the active. Drampa's got 3.
The downside to that is, are you setting yourself up to get knocked out by Tapu Lele? If you have 5 energies on you, plus the 2 on the Lele, so that's 140. That's not enough to knock out a Gardevoir here. 140. That's only going to do 160.
Energy
Gardevoir.
Drive is powerful, but not as powerful as Infinite Force.
Yeah, it's not going to be enough. That's for sure. So Sam here, he's just looking for another Gardevoir, most likely. He's still searching his deck, making sure everything is...
Oh, he's going to go for Gallade.
Interesting.
Okay, so if he's played a supporter this turn, Gallade does...
It does 260 because Drampa's weak to fighting.
Yes.
So
he's going to get the knockout either way.
He's getting the knockout here, guaranteed. Now he does not have to find the Fairy Energy, whereas before he needed to hit the Fairy Energy off of the Abyssal.
This is the guaranteed kill, although hitting the Fairy Energy was likely with the other plan. That there is a failure rate, right? And you don't want to risk it if you don't have to. So this is the guaranteed knockout. Gallade is still incredibly strong, and he can look at the top 5 cards of his deck, put them back in any order he wants if he can't Abyssal Hand for a full 5.
Exactly. So basically Sam is just saying checkmate, and he forgot the Potown damage. He took it there after his opponent reminded him.
Because the 20 from the Flying Flip, now the 30 additional from the Potown Evolution.
Yeah, I see you, Sam, trying to wipe away that energy like it never even happened. Can't get away with it this time. You're on stream, but no, I'm just kidding.
The people will see Sam.
There's a Field Blower to knock off the Choice Band, and most importantly, the float. Actually, he can choose the Potown and the Floatstone.
He could go with the Potown and the Floatstone, but he decides to go with the Choice Band. Okay.
If he's knocking out the Drampa, maybe he wants the Floatstone on the... That wouldn't make much sense. Oh, no, it does. That means he's saying, I don't want you to attach Choice Band to Garbodor because Floatstone's already on it. So you can't attach multiple tools to a
I
Pokemon.
want this Garbodor to not have the additional 30 damage available because you've got Floatstone on it.
Exactly.
And this Garb doesn't have anything that it wants to switch out to, so the Floatstone is essentially just taking up that slot. It's not going to do anything, whereas Choice Band could do something.
That's not a Garbotoxin Garbodor.
Nope.
So that's actually really smart by Sam to recognize that if he knocks off the Floatstone as opposed to the irrelevant Choice Band on the Drampa, there's a chance that Garbodor's Trashalant can do a perfect math with the Choice Band.
Yeah, we haven't seen exactly how many items are in Sam's discard, but he's got a Field Blower, he's got Ultra Balls. Not a
5.
huge amount, but he's starting.
So generally the players put the number of item cards as the dice. I think that's what that is right there next to the GX marker.
That would make sense.
Is the amount of item cards in the discard. It's usually how they keep track. Sometimes people are honestly just too lazy to do it. Or
you force
it's
your
just not
opponent to go and
enough.
search through every time they want to Trashalant.
But that's usually not the case. Most players are pretty respectful and aren't super...
Yeah, so Guzma, Double Sycamore, Gardevoir, that's going to be the order he puts them in.
Yeah, that was Premonition from Gallade here. And we see Sensitive Blade for 130 damage times 2, 260 damage to knock out the Drampa. And Eric is not in a good spot. Sam only has 2 prizes left to take. He has a Tapu Lele on the bench just
He's going to get a
for it.
Guzma, and that Lele will be out of here. Lele doesn't have weakness or resistance. None of the Tapus do, but...
you don't need weakness to kill a Tapu Lele if you have 20 million energies on your Gardevoir.
Your Gardevoir ready to go. Guzma brings the Gardevoir up, brings up the Tapu Lele.
Yeah.
And how is Eric going to stop this? He has a lot of ground to make up. Lele for the N, try to reduce Sam's hand size, but that's the thing. If you get that N down, reduce your opponent's hand to 1 or 2 cards, and you don't have the Garbotoxin Garbodor, then Abyssal Hand is just going to get them to 5 every turn regardless.
Yeah, but sometimes, I mean, you're in a dire position. Here, you just kind of have to pray that your opponent just whiffs somehow.
Yeah, that they don't get what they need.
But Sam's deck does not look that big. So it's more than likely that he will not whiff a supporter or an energy or whatever he needs. It's very unlikely, but as Eric, you have to go for it. And you're only ending yourself to 4, and you need to hit so much. You need to hit a Trubbish to try to set up another Garbodor. Because if you whiff the Trubbish and your opponent has access to Secret Spring, they don't even need a supporter. They can just get energies and knock you out that way. So you need a lot here as Eric to make a comeback here. And there is the Trubbish. That's step 1.
Okay.
Trubbish is step 1.
It's something. Looks like he might have a Floatstone in hand as well. Yeah, he's going to attach that to the Trubbish.
And it looks like Trashalanche is doing enough damage to knock out the Gallade. Most likely it was doing either 100 or 9. I see Sam put 4 next to the 5, so there's a chance it was just doing 180, which if that was the case, that's a decent amount of damage, but it's not enough to one-shot a Gardevoir. So Sam can just knock out this Trashalanche Garbodor, and then his opponent has no way of responding to his Gardevoir GX, which means he'll most likely just end up winning the game there. And as we see, Sam has so many supporters in his hand.
He has an abundance of supporters, but the Gardevoir on his bench only has 3 energy on it. Trashalanche Garb only has 1 psychic energy. So right now,
I mean, that's
this
120.
Gardevoir is, but if he were to bring up the Tapu Lele, then he would just have the 3 energy available on the Gardevoir, which it's not enough to knock out that Lele. So he doesn't look like he can end the game this turn. He would need to have a Guzma and an additional couple of energy available, but he's forced to use one of the draw supporters instead.
Yeah, he decides to end here. He's trying to set himself up for a good Abyssal Hand. He's going to draw 2 cards, and then he's going to draw to 5. If he finds a DCE, he can actually use Sylveon GX's Fairy Wind to do 110, and the Garbodor has 3 damage counters on it from the Po-Town. So if he finds a DCE or a Fairy Energy and then another Fairy Energy, that's going to be...
I think it's just a matter of time right now.
Knockout for the Sylveon, yeah.
Eric needs to find another Trashalanche Garb to hit with. He needs to find another Psychic Energy. He'd still like to shut down abilities, but it's far too late for that. He hasn't had access to Garbotoxin over the entire game.
Yeah.
It was kind of a slow setup for Eric. It looked like the first turn was pretty good. He got that Bridget out early, but then because Sam shut down that first Trubbish, Eric had a hard time setting up.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So Sam's strategy of going for the Trubbish just early on paid off dividends for him here. Because that's the main thing Eric was missing, was the ability to evolve into multiple Garbodors.
Yeah, and that's really what you need. Your attack power, yes, Drampa has a lot of power behind it, but if you don't get those Garbodors set up, then you're not shutting down abilities. You don't actually have access to those huge trash lanches. It's just not going to be enough attack power if you don't get your Garbodors early.
This is a desperation play from Eric. He's just Guzmaing up the Tapu Lele, hoping that Sam doesn't have a single energy to retreat.
Well, there's the Garbotoxin. Finally comes onto the bench.
That's a little bit too late, I think. Sam only needs a Guzma here, and that's going to be game over. But he does not have access to Abysmal Hand, so there's a chance that he can't knock it out, and he just has to go with Infinity Force over 2 turns to knock out the active Tapu Lele. And Sam ends up winning the game here. Eric draws a Field Blower, so he draws dead. He has nothing.
He knows that over 2 turns, Sam is going to take it. So Sam takes game number 1 with his Gardevoir deck. Looked very strong there. I know Sam is actually a master of Drampa Garb, was considering playing that this weekend. But, that works both ways. That just means that Sam really knows how this matchup works, knows exactly what Eric's deck has in it, and how Sam needs to operate this matchup to be able to get the best of Drampa Garb, and he's doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I think we saw that in the early game where Sam recognized that saving his resources and Guzming up a Trubbish early on was the best option for him there, because he knew that in order for Drampa Garb to truly be efficient against Gardevoir, they need to set up multiple Garbodors, which is difficult to do if you start knocking out Trubbishes early on. And it looks like they're just setting up here for game 2. This is pretty unknown to you, I would say, the setup phase of real-life card games.
Okay, I played Pokemon TCG for many years as a kid. I got back into it, obviously, about 2 years ago now, and now I'm here after a lot of studying and a lot of competitive playtesting. But I did play another card game competitively for a very long time, and then another card game competitively as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I played another physical card game competitively, so I understand the time that it does take to shuffle your decks back in, make sure you have even distribution of cards. Obviously, you don't want to compromise any of the integrity of the game. But, it takes a bit. But there's nothing like shuffling physical cards in your hand. There's nothing like it.
That's
once you play a physical card game and you try to move to a digital card game, it's just it's not the same.
I actually
not at
just
all.
sit on my computer, no matter what I'm doing, and I'll be shuffling cards.
Yeah.
I'll literally just sit there and shuffle cards in my hand.
I just have like a sleeved set of cards that I keep on my desk just for if I'm streaming or if I'm just playing and you need something to do.
I think it's an addiction, honestly.
But it seems like it's everybody who's ever played
a real
competitive card games
yes,
has this addiction, and it's there's far worse addictions.
That's very true.
Although this one can get quite expensive, I will admit.
You shuffle in bulk. That's like
it's like a nickel.
It's like a nickel a card. That's not a big deal. Who cares?
Doing it right now with the new Japanese set.
The Japanese cards are so nice.
The paper
they
feels
feel
so
different.
good.
The paper just feels, it's a different material than the English cards, and it just feels so good to shuffle. It's so satisfying.
All right, Ray. Hold on to yourself. We're going into game number 2. You got to get your mental faculties back in order. Bring it in. Rein it in, Raymond.
I got to deep breaths.
There you go.
Right.
We're good. All
Focus.
right. Game number 2. If Sam picks this one up, he will take a win in round number 1. And they're going to be playing out 9 rounds today. There will be a cut to either the top 32 or X and 2, whatever makes it into the top cut for tomorrow. Then there will be 5 more rounds of Swiss, and then we'll cut to a single elimination top 8. So these are some very, very long days. If you get an early loss, you can really start to get down on yourself. It really affects how you play, how you think, your emotional state. It can be very rough.
Yeah, and Eric mulliganing here is actually a huge deal for Sam because, it's all about that early game setup for both decks. Obviously, Eric's going to choose to go first, which is an advantage to him, but mulliganing gives Sam
An
more
additional card.
options. Maybe he draws a supporter when before he didn't have access to one. Who knows? But either way, if Sam's able to take a quick win here, that's huge for the mental game. Like you said, this is a long day. If you can take a match in 20 minutes, that's 30 minutes you have to just sit and recuperate yourself.
And especially since it's so early in the day, you may not know what everybody is playing, what the meta looks like at this tournament. So you get a little bit of time to maybe scope out the competition, really build yourself up for the next round, go back and look at your previous match and see anything that you may have liked to do differently or
There's no way any of these players are going to think about their last games if they win. They are just turning off their brains.
They're putting the blinders on and going right forward.
They're just
not thinking about the past.
Honestly, Sam, he can fall asleep anywhere.
I know a couple other people like that.
The number one place he likes to fall asleep is at the table that he plays at after he wins.
Some of the best card game players I've ever met are just champion sleepers. I know you know Frodan.
Yes.
A caster and host for another card game. Can fall asleep standing up, sitting down in a chair
I think it's
at
a
a desk.
superpower.
It's unbelievable how
It's a
easily this
superpower.
man sleeps.
I cannot sleep anywhere.
Nope, not in a plane.
I
not
can
in a
barely even
bus,
sleep in
not
my
a
own
car.
bed. I can barely even get to sleep in my own bed, Cora.
All right, let's look at the differential of this board state right now. Eric had a fantastic setup. He got to start the Drampa, has 2 Trubbish on deck, already significantly better than in his previous game. And Sam's just got a Tapu Lele in the active position. You don't want to start Tapu Lele. You want to keep Tapu Lele in your hand to get Wonder Tag, the Wonder Tag ability to get your supporters when you need them.
Yeah, and this is exactly what Eric wanted to see. The turn 1 Bridget plus an attachment. That's the ideal turn 1 for any deck that has to set up in any way whatsoever. And Sam is going to play a second Tapu Lele, which will most likely find a Bridget if it is not prized. Prizing cards like Bridget, prizing your tech supporter cards that you need to find.
It can be so detrimental.
Can be so, yeah, exactly. Because that just means your whole setup is compromised. You have to now draw into Ralts naturally.
I mean, Sam is only playing, 1 copy of Bridget, 1 copy of Acerola. If you were to prize either of those 2 really pivotal supporters, you're in trouble. If you don't get that Bridget set up, if you don't have the Acerola when you need it, yes, they're clutch and very situational, especially Acerola. You may not need it, but if you don't have access to it in a really important matchup, you're seriously at a disadvantage then.
Yeah, speaking of Acerola, Sam having played 2 Tapu Lele already means that he will not have access to a third Tapu Lele as easily later on in the game to get his clutch Acerola turn. That's a lot of the times how they do it. I mean, granted, Garbodor is most likely going to be active mid to late game, but a lot of the times this matchup can come down to Field Blower your tool, Wonder Tag, go find my Acerola, heal my Gardevoir that you just did X amount of damage to
get
full.
That setup back down and...
Exactly.
Because in some cases, Eric could be forced to have to take a 2-turn knockout onto one of the Gardevoirs because it does have that 230 HP. If you can knock off that 1 turn, essentially erase the turn that Eric just took, get your Gardevoir back down, set it up very quickly with Secret Spraying, with DCEs, then you have the ability to get that 1-turn knockout. It's so incredibly powerful.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. And here we see Sam is able to find his Bridget, wasn't prized. He's going to get a Remoraid, double rolls. It looks like he's going for the Artillery again. Which
it
means
worked out very well for him in the last game.
He's very comfortable going with the Pokemon that use abilities, even though he's facing Garbotox and Garbodor, which means he's comfortable knowing that he has a good chance to find Field Blowers. He has a good chance to be able to Guzma up the Trubbishes and knock them out. And he could have gotten an Eevee, he could have gotten a Ralts, a third Ralts. But
taking Remoraid over Eevee is a big sign that Sam either is not worried about Garbotox and Garbodor, or he thinks he doesn't have another option. He thinks that he needs to have that Abyssal Hand active because he did start a little bit behind. He's got the Lele in the active. It's not what you want to have right now.
Yeah.
Although it is all right, maybe soak up some damage while you get your setup on your bench if you don't want to lose an early routes or an early rem rate. It's not the worst thing in the world, but still, Eric is doing significantly better than he did in the previous game, and Sam maybe had an advantage in the previous game because Eric started so slowly.
Yeah, and Sam actually has a pretty big bench right now. He has 4 Pokemon bench, so that Tapu Koko spread is going to be hitting a lot of Pokemon right now, and it's going to start spreading this turn, most likely. And one of the things I was going to point out that is no longer relevant is that Sam had the Octillery in the hand with the Sycamore, so that could be a factor that influenced his decision to get a Remoraid, was the fact that he could just go play my Octillery so I don't have to discard it with my Sycamore, and then Sycamore all these things that don't matter anymore. But now that Eric and him, he might be like, I might have chosen wrong. Maybe getting that Remoraid was not the best option because I no longer just have the Octillery to play down.
Well, if Sam's able to find an Ultra Ball, he can get that Octillery out. He also is only running a 1-1 line of Remoraid Octillery, so you want to find that as early as you can, but it can be difficult in some cases. It's very rare that you open Remoraid Octillery. For instance, you need to use items and supporters to find it, and using items to find the Remoraid Octillery line just gives your opponent more more gas for Trash Launch on Eric's Garb.
Yeah. One thing that I want to note is that the Choice Band is on the Trubbish and not a Floatstone, so if that Trubbish is the one that's going to get evolved to Garbotoxin, he doesn't have a good way to retreat it outside of having to use a Guzma. So if there's a point in the game where Sam needs time, he can Guzma up the Trubbish, and now all of a sudden Eric has no way of retreating it outside of getting his own Guzma to retreat it. So that could play a factor in the game at some point, the fact that that Trubbish is Choice Banded up and not Floatstoned. But it looks like he doesn't find a Garbodor. Oh, there's an Ultra Ball. So he's debating.
Yeah, and he's got the Espeon in hand. With the Flying Flip Koko on the bench, ready to go, ready to start spreading damage. Having that Espeon EX available with Miraculous Shine to get that Devolution, that could be very, very disastrous for Sam. He's got 3 fragile basic Pokemon on the bench that, if Espeon comes down after Sam evolves them, Miraculous Shine happens, they're devolved. After Koko gets 2 more Flying Flips, if he can get it, there's all of Sam's basics gone. That's a huge turning point for Eric.
I think that's one of the alternate strategies of the deck. This Drampa deck is so versatile because it has multiple avenues to victory, effectively. Like, you can go big with the Drampa, you can just hit him for a lot of damage. You can smack him in the face.
Get him
For 180 damage with the Berserk, or you can go with the alternative route of spreading with Tapu Koko and then going for Espeon to devolve the Pokemon. There's just so many different ways to attack the matchup that it's kind of cool to see which one he goes for.
Yeah. It's a very flexible deck.
Yeah.
And a very flexible build with the Espeon GX and Espeon EX. You have alternative lines, like you were saying, to just the traditional Drampa, Trash Launch Garb, although even within that, right, it's a deck that does so much. You're shutting down abilities. You have your own decent attackers in the form of Trash Launch Garbodor, and then Drampa is your real big power. But those alternate lines give you so much flexibility against matchups where otherwise Drampa and Garb just wouldn't work.
Yeah, and Gardevoir is far more linear in the sense
that
very
much.
You're just going to most likely get your Gardevoir and attack with your Gardevoir, and that's what you're doing. And here, we see Sam taking a lot of time to search this deck after turn 1, which is... Look at the time. Look at how much time is left in the round.
They're running low. If Eric picks this one up,
this
might end up being a draw. They're not playing game.
There's no way that they're finishing a game 3. In fact, I actually think Sam is playing to the out of not finishing
this
game 2.
Time out this game if you possibly can.
Yes, because if you do not take at least 4 prizes, the game does not count.
Okay, so if the clock runs out, 12 minutes go by, and Eric or Sam have not taken 4 prizes,
it does not count.
Sam wins the round.
Correct.
And if Sam manages to take 4 prizes and Eric only takes 2, for instance, but Eric would potentially win the game overall, Sam still wins because the game
exactly
goes to him.
So I mean, here you're kind of just doing everything that you can to
take your time.
Take your time. And I like that strategy here from Sam.
It's a very legitimate strategy. It's not something that you see in other card games because there aren't clocks in other card games. There aren't draws in other card games. Mm-hmm. But in Pokemon, it's very much something that you need to find all of the avenues to victory, whether it be mind games, whether it be watching the clock very intently and figuring out how to best benefit your strategy by maybe playing a little bit longer, maybe searching your deck every opportunity that you get, shuffling very thoroughly. That's legitimate.
Yeah. And we see Eric actually knows. Look at how fast he's playing.
He is
just slamming his cards. You can see, like, he is actively trying to play very quickly.
That was the fastest turn I think we've seen so far.
He is not even
a retreat, a Potown, and attach float stone all within the blink of an eye.
He is playing off of instinct right now. This is what you have to do. As a Pokemon player, I know that, like, if I'm playing against another pro player and it feels – you're allowed to wear watches in this game.
Yeah.
So both players most likely have a watch on. So you know that your opponent's strategy – I mean, they're playing at a fine pace of play, but it's just the natural –
yeah, Sam's not by any – Sam's not breaking any rules by any means. He's just taking full advantage of the time that he has. It's what, 20 seconds per action?
Yeah, that's just how the game works a lot of the time is it's just – I mean – this format is pretty attrition-based. It's not
a very fast setup format.
Yeah, unless you're playing Ho-Oh.
Yeah, you lost Forest of Giant Plants. You lost Versus Seeker. You lost Shaman.
Yep.
There's a lot of setup ability that this format now lacks. It's a bit slower.
Yeah. And you can just see it in the way he's playing. Like, look at the camera for Eric. You can just see how fast he's going.
But also, look at their faces, right? They're smiling, they're joking around, they're talking during this. These guys genuinely enjoy what they're doing. But Eric absolutely wants to go as fast as he can because he knows that setup-wise, he's pretty ahead right now.
Yes.
If this game goes the full length of the game, Eric has a great chance to win this one and tie up the series. But a draw for either player in round number one, it's not as bad as a loss, but your tiebreakers ultimately, you don't want to be with an early draw.
No. Luckily, both these players are very good, so having either of them as your tiebreaker, you feel a little bit better about that.
Yeah. Like, you're assuming that however this game ends, the other player will go on to do very well.
Exactly, which makes you feel a little bit better, but ultimately, nobody likes to tie in this game, especially in the early rounds. That just does not set well in your mind.
For sure.
Like seeing a 1-0 is so much nicer than seeing an 0-0-1. Exactly. And Sam here, he just needs to knock out this Tapu Koko and stop the spread right now because
this is getting very dangerous.
This is like if that Tapu Koko could spread one more time, that's honestly like Eric can just end the game very quickly.
That would be a knockout on 3. Of Sam's Pokemon.
And then it's very difficult to...
I mean, how do you set up when you lose all your basics? I mean, Sam's just now getting out his first Gardevoir. Over these 2 games, he's never had access to more than 1 Gardevoir at the same time. I don't know whether that's just poor setup, maybe poor draw, but either way you cut it, he hasn't had access to more than 1 Secret Spring per turn.
Yep. We see an energy drive here to take out the Tapu Koko, and Eric ends up promoting the Garbotoxin Garbodor.
Sam is looking for a field blower. There's a Potown active. There's a tool on this Garbotoxin Garb. You want access to Secret Spring. You want access to Wonder Tag. You want access to Abyssal Hand. You are seriously struggling if you don't have those abilities in play.
No, but Eric is seriously struggling to find energies because he did not have an attachment last turn.
Nope, and he doesn't have any energy on that Drampa or the Garb. He's got nothing. He's got nothing in play. I mean, you can't kill your opponent's Pokemon unless you have energy to play. He finds the DCE, puts it onto the Drampa, but that's still not enough to Berserk.
Nope, but he can knock off the DCE off the Tapu Lele. How relevant is that? Honestly, it's probably not even good enough to do because promoting your Drampa and allowing it to be vulnerable to get knocked out by a Gardevoir that's risky. Gardevoir can hit for a lot of damage with a Fairy Energy on it because the abilities are obviously knocked off.
So you can't do Secret the Fairy Energy.
So you're doing what? 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. All Sam needs is a Choice Band, and he can knock out this Drampa if it just knocks off the DCE here. Sam just needs a Float Stone and a Choice Band. But Eric is in such a bad position with the clock that he needs to just be pressuring Sam. No matter what happens, you need to be pressuring your opponent because you have to take 6 prizes. Mm-hmm. You have to take 6 prizes in 6 minutes.
And, I mean, all he has access to right now is this Righteous Edge on the Drampa.
This is not what Eric wants to see.
Gets the Float Stone. This Gardevoir can be promoted into the active spot. There's a Fairy Energy in Sam's hand. Does he have the energy necessary to knock out this Drampa? He's going to attach to the Gallade instead.
That will do it. That will do it. If Sam has a supporter, he has the knockout due to weakness. And I don't know if Eric saw this avenue because promoting the Drampa and using Righteous Edge when your opponent has the Gallade?
I mean, this Gallade has come in so incredibly clutch for Sam. He only plays the 1 copy, but he's had it in both games. It's gotten knockouts. If it knocks out this Drampa this turn, will have gotten knockouts in both games. This is an incredibly valuable card. One that sort of seems like an afterthought, just a tech card in this deck, but in this matchup in particular, because it has the type advantage over the Drampa, paying off in spades.
And it's also a single prize attacker, so your opponent won't take 2 prizes, which is going to be huge here because Sam's alternate route to victory, although I think he actually would end up likely winning this game due to prizes, is stopping your opponent from taking prizes because there's 5 minutes left in the game. So having single prize attackers is going to be huge to that because, I mean, your opponent obviously takes less prizes.
Yeah, of course. If you end up ahead in prizes, then Sam will win this match as a result. And he finds the Choice Band, attaches to the Gardevoir, but he's going to be promoting this Gallade. Some damage counters get a little bit
260 damage
there. That's enough to knock out the Drampa. Sam now has taken 3 of his prizes. And Eric is behind on attackers. He's behind on prizes. He's behind on cards.
He's just ripping the N. He's got to go fast.
You need something to get yourself an advantage, and N is the way to start. You get 6, Sam goes to 3.
Yeah, but you got to go fast. See, look at how fast he just whipped his deck onto
shuffle,
the table. But look at Sam. Look at Sam now. You have this time to shuffle your deck. You saw your opponent just immediately puts their deck down. And then you just sit there and you're just shuffling. You're like, nope, I'm not. I'm going to take my time here. I'm going to shuffle this deck real good.
Eric is at the mercy of the clock. Can he mount a comeback and pick up 4 prizes to secure himself the draw? You would much rather have a draw over a loss, 100%.
I mean, you can't just take 4 prizes now because there's a big chance that Sam will also be able to take 4 prizes. You have to be ahead.
Yes. Eric needs to take 4 and Sam needs to take no more.
Right,
but
exactly.
In what world does that happen when you have a Gallade in the active and a Gardevoir set up and ready to go with a Choice Band attached in the bench?
There is almost a 0% chance that happens within 3 minutes because Sam's turn is
probably
arguably going to take a minute or 2.
2.5 or 3 minutes. No, I guess he doesn't have as much to do. No, especially not with double Guzma and a Gardevoir in hand. Picks up the Abyssal Hand Artillery, but the tool card attached to the Garbotoxin Garbodor.
Yeah, so Sam has
absolutely
nothing to do besides Guzma to stall. He could Guzma up that Trubbish and force Eric to have a Float Stone to be able to attack, or a Guzma. Guzma would be fine as well to just be able to retreat. But Trashalanche isn't really doing all too much here.
He's going to Guzma the Lele.
No. Guzma the Lele makes a lot of sense.
No, he decided to go with the Trubbish.
Yeah. But Guzma the Lele has some merit because it has the Choice Band on it, so Float Stone isn't an out.
Yep, and Sam's just going to bring up his own Lele, trying to stall. 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock. Eric needs to go now.
Yeah.
What does he need to find here to be able to knock out this Lele? Is it even possible? He doesn't have...
I mean, there's 4 items in the discard for Sam.
Yeah.
So, Trashalanche doing 110 at most. It's not... Oh, my gosh. And Eric doesn't even have a way to retreat. He has no supporter. He doesn't have a Float Stone. He doesn't have a supporter. He aspirated for 10 damage. That's not what you need to be doing here.
Nope, you need 2 energy to be able to retreat the Trubbish naturally. No Float Stone, no Guzma, no way to get this Trashalanche Garb in the active position and start attacking. Maybe take a 2-turn knockout on the Lele. 2 minutes now.
Yeah, I mean, Sam has nothing he can do, but does that even matter?
Does he need to do anything?
Yeah, does he need to do anything? Exactly. Ooh, did he just discard that Espeon EX? That's interesting that he didn't bench it because
Parallel City is in play. He can't.
Oh, wow.
He can't bench it. Eric
no,
has
there was a
3
Trubbish.
spots.
Yeah, but he just benched a Trubbish.
No, he just retreated the Trubbish and promoted the Garbo.
Oh,
or the,
okay.
the
Yeah,
Trash Lands Garb.
You're right. That's actually really well played by Sam to note.
You're locking up 1 spot with this
Yeah.
Tapu Lele. The Garbotoxin Garbodor is not going anywhere. So that only leaves Eric with 1 free spot on the bench to work with.
How does Eric ever take these prizes now that he can't devolve Sam's
In
Pokemon?
a minute 10, I don't think he can do it.
Sam
That devolve was
top-decks the N.
That devolve was looking like the only game plan that Eric could actually make this game happen with, and he was trying to actively pursue that game plan from so early on with that double colorless on the Tapu Koko. The Tapu Koko getting 2 flying flips very early on, but it just wasn't enough.
No, and Sam here, he's able to shuffle his deck again. There's 45 seconds left on the clock, and Sam is ahead in prizes. I don't know. Eric has to one-shot this Gardevoir, but I don't actually know if he'll be able to do that with what he has right now.
He just has the Garbotoxin Garb. Can he pick up Trashalanche?
Ooh, okay, so Trashalanche is doing 80.
All right, Sycamore for 7.
Most likely. I'm not sure exactly the amount of damage it's doing.
He finds the Trashalanche Garb, finds the Choice Band.
110, is that enough? It looks like it's going to be enough.
It's enough, okay.
And Sam needs to take a knockout in
9 seconds. Well, they have the 3 additional
yes,
turns.
So he has most likely.
He has
okay,
that
so
Gardevoir
Sam is going to be
on the
turn
bench.
0. If this time is accurate and the judges call it, Sam will be turn 0. And then it goes turn 0, 1, 2, 3. So Sam will get 2 turns, and Eric will get 1, 2, 3. He'll get 2 turns as well.
Can Sam find a knockout on the Tapu Lele? That will win him the game.
Yes, that will immediately win him the game. But knocking out
this
the
Trashalanche Garb
Garbodor
also means that how does Eric take his last prize?
I don't think he does, but how does Sam knock out this Trashalanche Garb when he's ending for 2 cards? He can't find anything. And oh wait, that's 30-60. That's not enough, but I don't believe that
he has any other options.
But that's fine. If Sam Infinity Forces here for 60, he's setting up a 2-turn knockout, and I don't believe that Eric can knock out this Gardevoir in one hit.
He needs to do 180. He's got the Choice Band, so he needs to do 150.
Okay, Sam is counting because Sam knows that it doesn't matter.
If this Garb can do 150 with the Choice Band, of course, being 180, then this Gardevoir is knocked out.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7.
So that's 8. Is that 8?
That's 160. That's enough.
It looks like it.
He's Twilight GXing. He's shuffling all of the items back into his deck.
Oh,
that is what he's doing.
wow.
Yep, he's using Twilight GX. He's shuffling
Oh my
all of the
God.
items in his discard back into his deck, so this trash land
is
will not do
genius.
anything.
That is genius.
What a play by Sam. He had the one fairy energy that he needed to be able
Yes.
to essentially shut down Trashlanche on the Garb. Oh, my goodness.
And I actually believe this game will not count if he can't take the last prize. Because both players
Sam is
have,
down. They both have taken at least 4.
Yeah.
And it looks like he shuffled back in an Acerola, perhaps another supporter alongside
honestly,
all of
his
the items.
It was all of his items are getting shuffled back in. So now this Trashalanche is doing 0 damage. And Sam is 1 energy away from being able to knock it out.
With the Choice Band, active,
yeah.
you still do 30 damage, even though you have a base 0 damage attack technically? Or does it only add if your attack does damage?
If your attack does 0 damage, Choice Band will not add 30.
Okay. So it only adds 30 to an attack that already does at least 10.
Yeah, otherwise attacks like Vulpix's
Beacon would do 30.
would do 30, which would be kind of odd.
Yeah, a little bit counterintuitive.
Eric Eldredge, we need your match slip. Sam Chen and Eric Eldredge.
They're a little bit busy right now, guys. I'm sorry to tell you, MC, but
Oh my gosh.
they're a little bit busy.
Yeah, if you guys didn't hear that,
They're looking for Sam
they're
Chen and
looking
Eric
for
Eldredge's
Sam and
match
Eric.
slip, but they don't
the
have it
judges
yet.
are looking for them. But
I found him.
we found him, guys.
They're right here.
He's over here.
Okay, but this is
And
such
it looks
a war
like,
of attrition.
There it is. Eric just concedes the game.
He's going to give it over to Sam. Very well played by both of these guys. What a grinding matchup it was. Only getting through one full game in the 50 minutes. Whew.
Yeah, Eric realized there is no way I can attack.
With all those items returned into the deck with Twilight GX, there's no attack on the Trashalanche Garb. Lele has no energy. Garbotoxin Garb has no energy. Nothing that Eric can do to actually take that last prize. So this game is all for naught.
Yes.
Sam Chen took the first one. Eric decided to concede the second. And Sam's going to go to a 1-0 score.
I wouldn't say he conceded. It was over.
It was over.
It was over.
He knew that even if they played this one out, there was nothing that he could do to change the course of the match.
Exactly. So he just saved us all time. The judges are looking for him.
He knew they were looking for their match slip. He's like, oh, got to get that match slip done.
Yeah.
And very well played. Obviously, we were talking about how Sam is on a hot streak. Top 8 in Worlds, just got second at the Fort Wayne Regional in Indiana.
Yeah.
He's looking very crisp on this deck, and Eric is likely to put up a good showing over the rest of the tournament. Obviously, this is only round one. Unfortunate that we got such a great pairing so early on when there are over 700 players in the Masters division.
Here.
I mean, that is incredible.
There are so many people here. That's one of the great things about coming to something like this when you're so used to playing PTCGO or playing online.
It's a whole different world.
It is. You come here and you just see all these people, all these fans of Pokemon, people that are here because they truly enjoy the game. They enjoy the culture, everything about it. And I don't know, it's just an experience that you do not get anywhere else.
I mean, it's just incredible to have over 1,000 bodies in the same convention center hall all playing the same game that we've all been playing since we were children, that we've loved for so long. And especially for me, this is my first large Pokemon event, to see all of these people, this wide variety of young and old, all different backgrounds, all different occupations, genders, doesn't matter. All of these people loving the same thing and playing this game so incredibly well. It's fantastic to think of all that we have to come over the next 2 days. One round down, 8 rounds to go today. Then we'll be cutting to a top 32 or whatever the best X and 2 score is to move on. 5 rounds tomorrow until we cut to top 8. We're in for a very long weekend, but we've got plenty more of the Pokemon TCG Hartford Regional coming your way. We'll be back with round number 2 very shortly.